One of the things I've noticed that new creators stress about a lot is the fact that they're not comfortable on camera, so they'll buy all the stuff, gas moded out, which is gear acquisition syndrome, and you'll just keep buying stuff, watching more review videos, and just literally going down the rabbit hole of I need XYZ gear in order for me to make better content, and it's simply not true. We all know for a fact that you can make great videos with your smartphone. That is not the problem. The gear is not the issue at this point, but there are a few factors and limiting factors that keep creators from making excellent content and just being afraid to be on camera. So I want to share with you 3 of my pro power tips that help me as an introvert be more comfortable creating videos, not just in my own refined space, but literally getting out and about, vlogging, creating videos out in public, and becoming somebody that teaches video, which is kind of baffling and bizarre, but very gratifying. Tip number 1, don't stress about your camera settings. Now, I am somebody that fully believes that you need to be recording content in mostly manual settings, which is to say I'm going to set with the frame rate like 4K, the shutter speed, the ISO, the aperture, all that jargon, that language that you'll hear in videos trying to teach you camera settings. That stuff is things you actually need to learn. I think one of the most helpful things you'll actually learn as a creator is the exposure triangle. It's a triangle in essence, and it's those 3 main points that help you to get a good look. I actually did a whole deep dive video, not into the camera settings, but in how you can actually learn to be a better creator and learn the exposure triangle. So if you want to check that video out, we'll put it in the information card. But there's literally over 6,000 searches every single month on the best settings for fill in the blank for that camera. And it varies from camera to camera, because when you first buy a camera, I was in the same boat. You're trying to figure out not only how do I set this camera up, but what are the best settings that I should be using if I want to mimic videos that I see on YouTube and get my videos and stuff to look like this. So copying and pasting settings is not super helpful. But if you did copy a few settings, like you're shooting in 1080p, you're going to shoot in 24 frames per second. That means your shutter speed would need to be about 1/48th of a second or 1/50th. Sometimes you just may see the number 48 or 50 in the bottom. Okay, fine. Let's say you shoot at f1.4 using a Sigma 16. Fantastic. The ISO will range and vary, as well as the white balance, or you can put them in auto if you want to. So let's say you got your settings nailed in. Fantastic. Go learn and experiment. This is where my branded shirt, the Video Simplified brand of learn and do concept is. When you learn something, go do it. Go actually make a video with those settings. You could put your white balance and your ISO in automatic and just go make a video. Hell, you could put the whole camera in automatic and create a video. But where creators mess up is they start wanting to go watch every tutorial, and if I just learn one more thing, then I'll be ready to make content. And that is just compounding and putting encyclopedias on top of your head, expecting you to create well with it. It's not even super helpful. So if you want to shoot B-roll or something, but you're just now getting into video, pause for the cause and stop where you at. You do not need to go and learn how to shoot cinematic B-roll or cinematic, like learn the basics. Go make a talking head video, talk about something that you know. Even better, turn your camera in a vertical orientation and go make an Instagram story. It'll disappear in 24 hours, but you got a chance to practice your settings. So if you feel like you don't want to waste your idea with making a bad video, go practice those settings on an Instagram story. Now, here's the kicker. It's going to disappear in 24 hours, but when you look at it on your phone, does it look too extremely bright? Does it look too dark? Are you just not sure? That's a piece of content that you could send to somebody and say, did I kind of get this right, or what am I missing? Literally go learn and do. Execute on what you've learned. Now, I kind of touched on this a little bit, but tip number 2 is going to take one thing that you learn and actually take a day and just practice that single thing. So for example, when I was first getting started with video, I couldn't figure out ISO, which is like artificial lighting or light sensitivity to the camera. Now that, and then white balance, which can make you look super orange, lime green, like it's a ton of stuff. Those 2 settings were kicking my butt all the time. I didn't have a gray card, so I didn't know how to set my white balance, and I didn't know what the ISO should be or what to look for. So one of the things that I did is for the next 30 days, before I would record a video, I would say what those settings are. I still do this to this day. Like if we're testing, trying a new format, or we're trying a new picture profile, I'll audibly say what those settings are, or take a picture with it with my phone, so that I remember if this looked too dark, these were not the right settings. If it looks too gray, we didn't quite nail the way I wanted it to look for coloring or something. but you won't know unless you try. But pick one thing and literally practice that one thing for the next 30 days. Why the next 30 days is not for you to create a habit or anything like that. It's literally for you to get familiar with touching and using your camera that many times. When I did this, when I first got a camera, it was a huge unlock. I made notes in a journal. I watched Sean Cannell's videos about just like basic stuff of how to set my Canon camera up, but I didn't go back and keep watching his videos over and over again. That's like a loop and a trap that people fall in, not for Sean's video, but just in essence. You may be watching some of my videos and you just keep like, well, man, if she just posts a video on this, then I'll be good. Why don't you go make some content and you will be fine, because you'll start learning things. You'll start committing it to memory. When you're touching your camera for 30 days, you're getting familiar with the menu system. You're getting familiar with the screen layout and what you're looking at. Because when you batch record videos, or you're trying to batch record videos all at once, this is super frustrating because you're never going to nail it, because every time you sit down to record a video, once a month, once every 4 to 6 weeks, you're not remembering what the last anything was that you did. It's hard for you to find stuff in the camera because you're literally just not familiar with it. Imagine if you only drove once every 6 months, immediately after getting your license. You still don't know how to drive. And that's kind of how it is with a camera. You don't know how to drive your camera. So you need to keep using it. Try it for 30 days, just any setting. Doesn't have to be long, but just keep at it. Pro tip here: if you're trying to use an interchangeable lens camera, which is something like the Sony ZV-E10, maybe you're using something like the Canon R7, where you can take the lens off, narrow down to just one lens only. And I'm not saying don't buy other lenses, but if you're learning all this stuff from the beginning, learn to perfect what you're doing. And I use the word perfect loosely. Just learn to get as close to right as possible. If you're constantly switching lenses, number one, you have things like the aperture. So if you're going from the kit lens, the lowest that can go is f3.5, which means automatically your ISO is not going to be the same as when you pop on something like a Sigma 16 and set it to an f1.4 aperture because you want a blurry background. The aperture is going to be different, which means the ISO is going to be different. Pick one lens that you really want to learn and just use that instead of keep swapping, buying lenses, buying gear. Too many learning curves equal a circle, and the more stuff you keep adding on, buying new devices, buying all this extra stuff, you try to learn like 12 different things at once to make one video. Just learn one thing, follow it until completion. It will help you tremendously, I promise. Tip number 3 is go create outside your normal recording environment. So this space here is my normal recording environment. Whether I'm shooting on my A6400 and I'm doing like a live stream or video I'm recording using Ecamm at the desk, or I'm using the ZV-E10 and I'm kind of back here in the more studio-like space. If I'm doing that, I'm always using the same settings for the most part, unless I'm experimenting with something, but I don't ever have to worry about switching it up. The reason why you want to go record outside of your environment is so that you can really learn, number one, the exposure triangle. And if I want a certain look, how do I do that? Your number one goal when you take your camera outside of your recording environment that you're comfortable with, I'm pretty sure most of you all that got started in 2020, 2021, maybe you're just starting now with video, you finally found good settings in your office space and you don't want to touch them. You're stuck with those settings and you feel like you're stuck creating content there, and you will default to your phone because you don't have to figure out any settings if you don't want to, or you'll put your camera in automatic. That's not how you get better. I don't blame you for doing that, or it's not bad, but a better way to get more confident with learning your camera is, number one, like set a goal of just look normal. That's it, just look normal. If you take this camera and you go outside and you want to do a video or even a segment of a video, can you just get it to look normal? That's all. Just set a goal to look normal. That's it. If you can get things to start looking normal from the brightness, if you wanted the blurry background, could you do it? If not, then fine, don't stress about it. The second goal should be to keep testing your settings in different environments outside of your normal environment. So if you're able to get the blurry background and your exposure or the lighting correct, can you take that Sigma 16 lens out to a park and actually have it look good? Can you still figure out what small things to adjust in order to get your video to look right? I did a video where I walked through 5 settings that you absolutely want to change on your camera. That's also a part of this creator series if you haven't checked it out. But here's the kicker. One way or the other, you got to figure this stuff out. Even if you hire somebody, you still maybe have times where you just need to record. Only being locked into one specific space to record content is not helping you become a more confident creator. Only way you're gonna build confidence is to stress that muscle just a little bit. I'm not telling you go make your next 7 videos outside or in different spaces, but what if you just took one clip, one segment of a video and recorded that while you were out and about? You don't have to vlog. It could be someplace secluded so you can focus and, you know, not be thinking about what other people are thinking and looking at you and all that stuff, but just relax and give a tip, a portion of the video outside, and then let everything else be inside. So you only have one segment where you're experimenting instead of the whole video, and then it becomes a disaster. So let me know, what are some other things that are stressing you out about creating content in the videos? Let me know down in the description. With that, that's with passion. I'll see you in the next video.